Welcome in, everyone. We are getting very close to Election Day, the primary election in Kansas, of course, August 4th. We are sitting down with the candidates for the Kansas 4th Congressional District. Today we're joined with Republican candidate Frank McCollum. Frank, thanks for being here, first of all.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to start there with your background. You were a fourth-generation farmer. You're also a retired nurse as well. What got you into wanting to run for the 4th Congressional District?
What got me interested in running for 4th Congressional District was the war in Iran. You know, I've seen inflation take off before my time, but I never saw inflation take off so quick and fast as it did after the March 1st, the war. The price of diesel went from $2 a gallon to $4 a gallon overnight, and the price of urea went from $600-700 a ton to $1,200-1,300 a ton. And all the repair companies, they just almost went about a third in their shop rates overnight, just like, you know, everything's went plumb to the roof. You know, and there's no end to it. I mean, you know, I can't see any end to the war myself. You just can't have inflation going up all the time. Like right now, they're figuring taxes for the coming year, you know, and Greenwood County done said they're going to raise taxes 25% due to inflation. And once taxes go up, they never go down. So this war is going to cost people money from going forward in years to come, even though it ends a day.
A main priority in your campaign has been inflation and affordability as well. If you were elected to the 4th Congressional District, what changes would you want to make at the national level to help bring inflation down?
Well, I think first thing you got to do is implement the War Powers Act, so the president just can't go off and start a war anytime they feel like it. So when you have a continuous war, you have continuous inflation, and that's just a fact of life. You know, and you know, the United States has been at war continuously since 1981. You know, and inflation in this country, I don't know how much percentage it went up in my lifetime. You know, when I was a child, you could buy a good pickup for $6,000. Now it's $100,000 for pickup. You know, that's a big rate inflation, and that's the first thing I'd like to do is to implement the War Powers Act, and so you can stop these wars. After the war in Iraq, you know, inflation went plumb to the roof. You know, in 2008, we had $4 gasoline then. You know, and $1,500 fertilizer over that war, and so we're just repeating ourselves over and over again due to the wars.
We are going to talk about the agriculture side of it. You have in the farming background, you've seen it firsthand. We're also going to talk about the other priorities in your campaign as well. But I do want to talk about this. You are a Republican candidate. This is a very Republican-leaning district here in the state of Kansas. But why do you feel like there needs to be a change in who serves in this district?
Well, I just think that people need a choice between whether they want to continuously wars. You know, I mean, just because you're Republican, it doesn't mean you should deny health care to the poor people. You know, like over in Eureka, the hospital over there, they lost $1,600,000 last year to the Medicaid cuts and stuff. You know, and the Republicans said the only people on Medicaid is people not working. With over in Greenwood County, the average wage is only $18,000 a year. You know, they can't afford health insurance. You know, they don't Medicaid and then Obamacare. I've done Obamacare myself 10 years. You know, and I loved every minute of it. And they cut the subsidized for that. And so there's got to be a balance between everybody involved, everybody make a living at it. You know, and I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, you know, I'm not a Democrat. There's a lot of things with Democrats I don't believe in. You know, but I think if Republicans, like, you get out and work at it, you should have a fair chance of making it and not be stacked against you. And I just think they need a choice between whether they like continuous war and less inflation, or war all the time or inflation all the time. You know, I read the other day that the average age of a person now, first-time home buyers now is 40 years old. You know, and it's going to get worse. You know, the inflation keeps going up. And I also read the other day that, according to Wall Street Journal, we're paying $3 billion a day in interest. The federal government is. You know, the federal government just can't keep doing that and sustain itself.
So you are a farmer. You have a farming family as well. We want to talk about the Farm Bill because we're right now on an extension of the 2018 Farm Bill, and a lot of things in there don't keep up with the current times and prices of where we are now. If you're elected to Congress, what's something that you would fight for in the next Farm Bill?
Well, I think the main thing you got to fight for is keep the subsidies for the crop insurance. You know, the crop insurance or the payments are so high enough to subsidize it, you know, nobody could afford it. And in fact, crop insurance, you can't get a loan from the bank. I mean, that's just a fact of life. I mean, and so that'd be the number one thing I had to fight for is the subsidies for crop insurance, because I mean, much it costs to put a crop in nowadays. You know, unless you can got something to back you up, you can go bankrupt real quick. So, but the other things, a lot of things I think about the farm bill is, I think they should let the people graze cattle on CRP land in wintertime. I think it would help the beef industry out a whole bunch if they would take that restriction off, that they can't graze cattle in wintertime on CRP land. I mean, if you graze cattle in wintertime on CRP land, it's not going to hurt the grass land. And I mean, at the same time, we'd be expanding the cow herd so we have cheaper beef.
We report on this a lot. Farmers right now facing a lot of pressure, dealing with a lot of pressure from tariffs, trade policies as well. As a farmer, what has been your experience with this, and how could that shape what you would do in D.C.?
Well, these tariffs have been a disaster for farmers. I mean, the price of tires, a lot of times you go and buy a tire at one price, and just 2 weeks later, it then went another $50. And you know, I've never heard anybody say where the price went down $20 or $30 because of the tariff. You know, the tariffs, what the president implemented is against the law, because the only person who's allowed to tax Americans is the House of Representatives, and tariffs is the tax. You know, if the Republicans really wanted to put tariffs on people, all they had to do is pass it to the House of Representatives and Senate and have the president sign it, and it had been legally. But they let the president unilaterally put tariffs on something for no reason at all. It's just like the other day, they put tariffs on Canada, 50%, just I don't know why. I mean, he never really came out and said, but that's going to affect people. The lumber we get out of Canada, that's going to raise the price of homes up some more. I mean, the tariffs is right now, since last year in April, it's cost American people billions of dollars for no reason at all.
Gas prices right now, top of a lot of people's mind. It affects everything from you know, the chains to obviously the regular consumer like everybody else. What are changes that you would want to see nationally be done to lower the gas prices back down?
Well, I think the one thing they'll do is pass that E15 year round. I mean, I don't see what the big holdup is. Congress don't pass the E15, so consumers can't have it year round. I mean, that would help a lot, and because they'd be using more corn stuff. But then, another thing, they claim we got enough petroleum now to satisfy our own needs for petroleum every day. So what's the war really got to do with the price of gasoline and diesel going up? I mean, I don't understand that. I mean, all I know since the war broke out, it's cost me a lot of money to farm, and it's costing consumers a lot of money to eat, because everything has to be traveled by trucks and tractors, and a lot of this truck fuel now is $6 a gallon. So I really don't know what they're charging for mild haul stuff anymore.
You are a former and retired nurse, and I think you have perspectives on both angles, which a lot of Kansans are dealing with right now, specifically access to rural health care, a very big deal as well. You're seeing hospitals struggle financially to keep up. We've also heard a lot of different access to medical care as well for people. They want things to be more accessible, more affordable. What are things that you would do to address affordability when it comes to it, and keeping these rural hospitals stay afloat?
Well, like I said, the first thing, they cut that Medicaid a whole bunch of, how many millions of dollars. They need to refund that again. And they also talk about giving money. Hospital like Eureka, that has the only hospital around for critical care, they're going to give them special funding to keep it open for critical care, for like the Highway US 400 and stuff, so they need to pass that. But it's real critical, so some kind of insurance program so poor people can have insurance. I mean, like I said, every week in the paper, in the Eureka paper, they're suing everywhere from 10 to 25 people because people have money. If they can't pay the hospital, then the hospital can't pay their bills. And right now, Eureka's already gets subsidy from the county. But they want more, so they just they keep cutting the cost. I mean, the cost is there every day. Where they, with the Washington D.C. thing, well, they got to do is take the pen and deduct how much they're going to pay the doctors and the hospital and stuff per day. That just doesn't work. The cost is still there. I mean,
well, we have seen this topic come up many times over the last several months, really over the last year or so. It's data centers in a lot of these rural communities. A lot of people not in favor of it in these communities, speaking up at town halls as well. In your campaign, you said that I believe that there should be a moratorium on data centers all across the country. Can you explain that?
Well, I think the moratorium on it, they're going to put too much heat out. You know, with this, the environment's already hot, and so that they use a tremendous amount of energy, you know, and it make the environment that much hotter. And another thing, the electricity. I mean, where are they going to get the electricity for that at? You know, I mean, as they build more power grids, you know, somebody's got to pay for it, and the water. Kansas is already a shortage of water to cool them things. I mean, I just don't see where, you know, unless you build a thing along the Kansas River up there, and you know, along there'll be enough water and stuff to serve these things. And, you know, since they built that battery plant up there in DeSoto 3 years ago, our electric rates, they went up 3 times trying to pay for the power lines through that power plant alone. 3 times. I came to all 3 meetings down in Wichita with the power rate increases, and all 3 times, you know, the commissioner gave the rates to them, you know, and so somebody's already got to pay. You know, we used to milk cows, and if we milked cows today, we'd have to have the big old solar panel for our own electricity, because we couldn't afford electricity. Just because our electricity bill would be over $2,000 a month if we were milking cows today. The electricity's so high, and so that's the reason I'm against it, because nobody said who's going to pay for it.
As we wrap up here, we want to give you a chance to send a message to the voters on why they should vote for you.
Well, I think I'd give you voters a choice, you know. But like I tell them about you believe in wars and forever, and inflation, or let's bring the wars to an end, you know, and stop inflation. I personally don't believe one person should have that much power to just start a war anytime you feel like starting a war. You know, the attack on Iran, in my opinion, is about like Japan attacking the United States in '41, you know, for no reason at all. And I know the people over there don't really like Americans, but that's not really a reason to attack them, you know. I mean, a lot of people don't like me, so that's just the way life is. You just can't waste billions of dollars on a war that has no end, and American people are paying for it every day out of the pocketbook, you know. So I think that's the main thing, and like healthcare, I think we should really help. The rural healthcare has got to be changed, you know, because people in rural America, they need healthcare just like people in town do. And I had a farm accident back in 2011. It had been in the hospital in Rica, and I probably would have bled to death. So I personally know how important it is. If I hadn't been, you know, went much farther, I probably wouldn't be here today. That got me treated and sent me on to Wichita. So I'd say them 3 things I really worry about is the war and inflation, rural health care. So that's about it.
Well, Frank, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Frank McCollum, he is a Republican candidate for the 4th Congressional District for the state of Kansas. We've also interviewed the Democratic candidates for this race as well, Katie Tyndall and Chris Carmichael. We did a forum with them, and that can be found right now on our streaming websites as well. And again, the primary election is set for August 4th.